I want to briefly talk about Yoshitoki Oima's Koi no Katachi and what I think is its beautiful temporal mesostructure, this arrangement of paneling so adept at utilizing a strong self-composed visual grammar to get at the heart of its themes and ideas. One such example I'm referring to is the topmost panel of chapter 26, where Ishida and Naoka are sitting on the bench in the amusement park discussing the past, and Naoka confidently states, "You and I are alike." This panel summarizes the entirety of Koi no Katachi so wonderfully due to its dualistic approach to textual and visual language. As a single panel, the composition takes advantage of multiplanarity, separating the two with the tree, the bubble from Naoka's words, attempting to bridge the divide. Ishida's silence, however, notes both a weakness and futility of words that, while she begins the dialogue itself representative of her attempting reconciliation between Ishida and Kazuki, it's futile. Ishida is speechless as he is powerless to meet Kazuki. Naoka's efforts ultimately failed, as do her words through the speech bubble that fails to penetrate the diegetic split screen. What's even more important, however, are how the panels that follow it are structured. Ishida remains on the left, head slumped. The panel is empty, isolating. He's alone, and in a mirror of the topmost panel, the following subject-to-subject transition reiterates the visual cues established beforehand. To some, this may seem redundant, and that's fair, but it does get at what is a claustrophobic bitemporalism. And that's really interesting. Koi no Katachi, or A Silent Voice, is a coming-of-age story that focuses on Shoya Ishida and Shoko Nishimiya. The former was the bully to the latter due to the latter's hearing disability. As a result of his behavior, Ishida found himself an outcast among his peers. Years later, Ishida sought to right his wrongs before he commits suicide, meeting up with Shoko intent on apologizing. However, after meeting her, the two spend their times reconciling with those years before. And it's very important to note that Koi no Katachi utilizes a highly sympathetic visual grammar to depict its story. You can find this attempt to understand and at the same time project these characters through the panels and their interplays within and between spaces. See, Koi no Katachi loves to use what Scott McCloud calls moment-to-moment and subject-to-subject panels that are oftentimes a means of slowing down the sequence of events. If we read a panel like a shot from a scene, then the size and position of the panels are clues on how quickly and attentively we should focus on the information presented. What Koi no Katachi likes to do, however, is utilize panels of similar and oftentimes equal size to drastically slow down the pace of the story. It builds these incredibly languid atmospheres that emphasizes these sort of micro moments, and in playing with these moments, Oima uses time not only within panels to guide readers, but also between panels to dictate the pace upon which they experience these events. For example, when Ishida sees his old elementary school teacher again, the awkwardness through the match transition of the panel slows down the time between actors through its subject-to-subject transition. This emphasizes the awkwardness and uneasiness he feels, which is then translated to the reader. In other words, a sympathetic narrative is constructed through a masterful connection between the diegesis of the panel and the interstitial space, the gutter. But this isn't particularly new or unique to Koi no Katachi, so why is this a story worth talking about when we talk about panel structure? I'd say it's because of its subject matter. I think there's a poignancy in a story about a deaf girl presented in a medium without sound. The languishing panels of Koi no Katachi establish not only a sense of time, but it also gives the audience ample opportunity to enter the headspace of the people that read its texts. After all, Neil Cohn aptly notes, verbal language is temporal. Graphic form, in most cases, is static. Audio mandates linearity, but the analog nature of vision depends on paneling to create a sense of linearity. Therefore, through Oima's paneling, we experience sequences that align with the headspace of the characters. In short, this manga uses a structure that sympathizes with the people in its story. And it's not just in the movements of the characters. Oima meaningfully blocks the characters through their separation of panels. For instance, when Shoko's mother talks about using sign language at the table, she sits alone in a sparse white background, juxtaposed with the previous panels of the girls eating together. The contrast of spatial density between dense and short, bare and large reveals how much time is spent on the mother compared to the activity of the girls, illuminating power relationships alongside senses of disassociation. The larger panel is meant to give us time to drink in the details, but the only details presented are that of a tired woman robbing the girls of their insider language. It accentuates her otherness. When Ishida compliments Shoko, his panel grows as he grows more confident, whereas hers shrinks as she becomes more and more nervous. Here, the transition and playfulness of the shrinking left panel is both an encroachment as well as diminution on Shoko's side. When Ishida is escaping, the clean perpendicular gutters turn into chaotic angled lines that compromise a sense of focused linearity. And interestingly, it's when he sees Naoka that the composition grounds itself, returning to usual straight lines. And I think these fundamentally straightforward laconic uses of paneling is fascinating and telling of the intended phenomenology in Koi no Katachi's themes. Oima has said that she wanted to understand these people, and that her modus operandi for character development is oftentimes trying to understand how they think and behave. And while we can take a look at how she uses very surface illustrations, for instance, we can see how the X slides off of Naoka's face at moments where Ishida lets his guard down, showing how he isn't as focused on his self-isolation as he thinks. I think Oima's work is most resonant on its barest, most fundamental level. While there's a cleverness in her constructing a sympathetic metadiegetic iconic currency, I think Koi no Katachi's most powerful visual elements are how it treats the panels that bears the information we read, that fundamentally, at the surest, simplest form of visual language, we can come to feel and empathize with these people. And I think that's really important. You may have heard of Tsunagari-kan, or a sensation of closeness even with massive divides. Though we can understand it as useful in a discussion of distance, I think it is applicable to how Oima composes her panels, that sense of an ideational or temporal division that nevertheless is tempered by a close living-in experiential sensation. After all, this is a story about closing gaps, and language is at the heart of that. To understand language is to understand a mindset, a thought process, and by extension, an identity. The reading of Koi no Katachi is the reading of empathy constructed to Oima's own visual grammar, own thought process. Through simple interstitial and intra-panel space, we can understand these people a little more, a little better. And really, for now, that's really all we can do.
Wow, this project took quite a while to finish up. I am sorry for the delay, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. This has been sort of a little new for me because I'm not overly familiar with sequential and comic art, and so I had to sort of do a lot of reading for this, and I really hope I got most of the stuff accurate. If there's any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to let me know in the comment section. I will try and do my best. If you're looking for more videos by people who are not me, you definitely check out Eskibu's video. Her most recent video is on why aesthetic matters in anime, and she provides a pretty interesting argument. It's very intuitive, very straightforward. Definitely check out the video, take a look at her channel, give her a shot. It is fantastic. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who backed me on Patreon. It's been hugely helpful to continue funding a lot of these projects, and thank you very much to anybody who did. And anybody who still checked out the link, definitely check out my Patreon. Even if you check it out, I greatly appreciate that. And yeah, that is pretty much it. If you have any questions or concerns outside of the video itself, check me out on Twitter. Twitter is going to be in the video description below. And join my Discord. I don't know. I don't really have a good way to end this.